So Rockstar Games has a reputation, and it's a reputation of secrecy. They don't really like talking about their games until they have something to show, and that usually is a couple of months before release, which makes, the pre-release phase of talking about these games just so frustrating, but also a little exciting at times, just all the theories and stuff. But yeah, Red Dead Redemption 2, we didn't know a lot about it until it eventually came about. But there is one big thing about Red Dead 2 that a lot of people love to forget. There were some massive leaks that included almost the entire plot of the game getting out before anybody knew about it. Once obviously Red Dead 2 was out, people got to complete this full story, they went back and they're like, oh my god, it was there the entire time. And a lot of the time people kind of scoff at these leaks because every time there's always somebody. My uncle works at Rockstar, and it does turn out to be that every once in a while it does end up being the case, but Grand Theft Auto 6 especially has been a very leaky game. Like 2022, that is going to be the infamous example, probably the biggest video game leak of all time. Those dozens upon dozens of in-development videos, which ended up having a hacker being found, put in jail. It was a massive scandal that we even had articles coming from the BBC, Grand Theft Auto 6 footage leaked after hack, developer Rockstar confirms. This was a massive moment, and this was our first real indication of the direction that Rockstar Games was going with GTA 6. But there has been many more leaks since then. Many people forget this one, but a year later we had a Rockstar Games developer's son, this is a lead developer's son, just randomly leaked, I think on TikTok or such, like a little bit of a screen grab of GTA 6's Vice City. It was one thing people didn't really believe for a second, but when they looked at the individual and found out that he was connected to who he was, it was clear that this was real. And then even just last month, we had another massive leak. This one was coming from a demo reel of a Rockstar Games developer. It showed off some animations and stuff that were working for the game, some bicycle stuff. But ultimately, though, with all of these situations, Rockstar Games, Take-Two Interactive, their parent company, they go into takedown mode. And we've seen that with almost all of the leaks. The 2022 leak's a little different. They've tried to contain it, but it was too widespread. But the other leaks, they have gone out of their way to really shut down this stuff, copyright and take it all. But obviously discussions, you can't shut those down. So this leads us to what's happened this last week. And if you have been following along, Rockstar Games has been having some massive problems because they fired a number of developers last month, which led to widespread protests outside of Rockstar's offices, as well as Take-Two Interactive. Many believing that this was an effort in union busting because many of these developers were trying to form a union. Rockstar Games denies that. They say that these developers were leaking confidential GTA 6 information, so they were fired because of that. Now, some of the court case information is starting to come about, and this is an article coming from Rockstar Intel. GTA 6 online detail revealed a new court case. Rockstar Games identified in the court filings one specific confidential, feature that these developers were talking about, and it's evidence that why they were fired. And it was that GTA 6 Online is likely going to have 32-player online lobbies, which has kind of been a thing for GTA 5 Online. Not sure how that is. Many people just believe that this is an excuse, but this isn't really the big thing that I think is noteworthy about this ordeal. It's actually another article coming from IGN about this same case. Union asked judge to grant fired GTA 6 devs interim relief at preliminary tribunal hearing. Rockstar denies claims, and Rockstar said in a statement, "We've always taken a zero-tolerance approach to unauthorized releases of information, and we always will." So here's the massive kicker. They identified specific points in which they found leakers at the studio, and they fired them in the past. And this is the specific quote that was provided here by IGN. Rockstar has pointed to its well-established zero-tolerance approach to leaks, highlighting that it dismissed a Rockstar employee in Lincoln, UK in April 2025 who alleged disclosed confidential information about GTA 6 to a third party who published the information to social media. And they dismissed an employee in the US in November 2023 and another in India in November 2025 for two separate acts of information leaking. The problem here is that Rockstar accidentally confirmed some of the massive leaks that have been emerging surrounding GTA 6. The first one is specifically this little Reddit post that came 2 years ago in October of 2023. Like about 2 months later, we finally got the first debut trailer, but this is something I already knew about. Others know about as well. So this has kind of been something behind the scenes people have been talking about. But yeah, this is, from what I understand from my own source, this is real. And GTA 6 plot mechanics, or at least it was real up until the last time I heard about it, which was now probably about 2 years ago. But this individual leaked pretty much the intro of Grand Theft Auto 6. And there's another leak we're going to get into, but really just there's just so much here. So this is before we knew about Jason, Lucia, really anything too concrete about the story of the game. This individual gave insight. He said, "I was surprised by my source when I was told that Lucia has a baby that she abandons at a deli before heading out to a bank robbery and then getting arrested for doing such an act." Another outlet a couple of years ago, I think it was Rockstar Universe, confirmed this same thing about the baby at the deli. So this just gives more credence to this already anyway, if you don't believe myself. But it is not known if the baby was a boy or a girl, and obviously there will be no kids in the game. This only happens as a cutscene, as a flashback of the past. I have no information about what happens to this baby after the point. After a few years, Lucia gets released on probation. We saw that in the second trailer, her getting released from jail. She's picked up at the prison by Jason, who's planning a robbery with her, and they fall in love with each other after some time. The majority of the planning for the missions take place at a nightclub called Vault. In the very first mission of the game, you can control Jason, and you have to follow a plane that is about to land and carries a Russian drug dealer. Apparently, Jason meets the guy and starts to plan a mission to steal drugs. In this drug stealing mission, they are chased by the police, and the drugs end up falling into the ocean. There's a following mission where they have to dive to retrieve it. And I have alluded to this Reddit post on my own Twitter account. I think it was over a year ago now. But yeah, this is what a lot of people have been. This has just been the talk behind the scenes for a while now. I'm actually surprised more people didn't get to this before now, but I think Rockstar Games just confirmed it themselves. And they say that also about mechanics in the game. There is a new mechanic for detecting threats and valuable items around you. This is not a special ability like Franklin's ability to drive cars with a special handling. This is a new mechanic that seems to be somewhat inspired by the dead eye targeting from Red Dead 2. This mechanic is revealed in the Hank's Waffles dining robbery, present in the leaked 2022 videos. Rockstar has also been focusing on very detailed mechanics of searching places. This one seems to be also inspired by a mechanic from Red Dead 2. So this was a massive leak. This came about in October of 2023, very likely a Rockstar Games developer who was found out and fired by the studio. But here's the next one. So as you can see, that was the what, November 2023, right around that time. That was that leak. But there was another one from April 2025, and they mentioned that this was published to social media. So who was that? Which leak are we talking about? Well, there is an infamous one online, and it is specifically this one coming from Twitter user GameRoll. So in April of 2025, he leaked the names of Lucia and Jason, which is, we found out a couple months later, accurate, Lucia Caminos and Jason Duval. And he said, these are my guesses, but that's clear that he had a source. And he clarified just a couple of months later that he got provided a ton of other information about GTA 6. And he specifically said this was a disclaimer, I have no proof of any of this information, other than it all comes from the same exact source who told me Jason and Lucia's last names. It is not a direct source. They claim to be the friend of a Rockstar Games developer. I asked them to find out Jason and Lucia's names so I could verify their story once they were eventually revealed, and that's what happened. This was published in June. It kind of went under the radar, but now it's finally gaining steam because, again, Rockstar Games themselves basically confirmed this. So it must be mentioned, though, especially with game development, details like this are subject to change, but this is just a ton of gameplay, open world, story-related information. This is probably the biggest GTA 6 leak since the 2022 ones. So we're going to get into it. If you don't want to hear it, I just wanted to at least let you know what we're about to get into. So it mentions first here the gameplay. The 6-star wanted level returns. The relationship bar mentioned in the 2022 leaked clips still exists, and it works like Honor in Red Dead 2. Weight mechanics are a thing, which I love to hear that, especially because I think we haven't had that since San Andreas. Explorable underwater areas with treasure and secrets. Although weight mechanics kind of was a thing in even like Red Dead. It was somewhat there, but wasn't as extensive. Trailer 2 scene where Jason buys beer is gameplay. That's actually pretty interesting. The greet and antagonize is in the game. That makes complete sense. It doesn't make sense why Rockstar would move away from that mechanic. It really allows you to have some identity in the open world, interacting with NPCs, and being able to do that a lot more extensively, maybe more fleshed out in GTA 6 I love the possibilities. The character wheel will have 3 options: solo Jason, solo Lucia, and dual protagonist control, where Lucia/Jason can be controlled at the same time to rob together in the open world. Some missions are also started using the 2 of them at once. I think some people love the possibility, and this has been discussed, but just the idea of maybe Jason or Lucia driving the car, and then you can switch between them, one driving, one shooting and jumping out the window. We've seen, that was another thing in the 2022 leaks, that you could see somebody hanging out the passenger side window shooting at other people. And, obviously the current GTA game shooting out of the car kind of is a little bit awkward, but being able to do that alongside your partner in crime, it does make a lot of sense. Now, we do get some heads-up display information saying that the rectangle GPS has pink waypoints. Jason has a Dead-Eye-like ability, slows down time, and reveals weak spots. Lucia can do it, but one shot. Source said this is apparently super bad, and they hope it gets changed. It's meant to show how Jason is a better shot than Lucia due to his time in the army, which, again, that would make sense. People react to having your guns out. Again, that open world details, that does matter. Male strippers are in the game. That's not too much of a surprise. Driving is best it's ever been, which we'll see about that. Again, that's more subjective than anything else. Gore dismemberment is being built off of Red Dead 2. That's great. Limited weapon system returns stored in trunk. This will be controversial. This will be very interesting. We kind of got indication of this a while ago. Again, those 2022 leaks, but being able to only have a certain amount of weapons on you, I think a lot of people do really enjoy the freedom of having every single weapon in the game on you. But now having to actually think about it a little bit more, I personally like it from a gameplay perspective, but I can understand why some people would be frustrated by it. But yes, they're definitely going in the more, I guess, leaning a little bit more into the realism, but probably not going that far or too far like Red Dead 2 did. Donnie, Jason's friend who works for Brian, and is described as a freak. The map is once again an island. There is no panhandle. That's interesting. There's enterable shopping malls and skyscrapers with lifts. There is 700 plus shops in most interiors of a major open world game. This is the one I'm most iffy about. So I think it was worth mentioning that Grand Theft Auto 5 has about 100. And even Jason Schreier, who also had his own leaks about GTA 6, said that they were really focusing on making it sure that you had tons of interiors to explore rather than this like giant open world and such. So it does make sense that this is probably going to have, 700. And if you compare it to GTA 5, it only had about 100. So this does feel like a natural evolution. And I think that is exciting, especially if these interiors are full of content and things to do. Now, story and missions. Fortunately, this individual is not going to spoil much here. The game has chapters like Red Dead 2, 5 chapters in total. Shots from trailer 2 were all from chapter 1 through 3. So we haven't seen much of the end game stuff. Now, cut, non-existent content. There is no fully nude, those type of scenes, very PG game, that makes sense. Listening to music outside of car apparently isn't a thing, which is kind of disappointing. You think that they would make some sort of feature. Maybe that is something that does change. Prone was cut a while ago. Dual-wielding weapons is not in the game, which is kind of crazy because they built off a lot of Red Dead 2's mechanics and identity. I would honestly have thought that this was here for some of the handguns, but I guess not. And here's an even crazy. There is no Disney World parody. That's crazy. That's a little disappointing, but I guess maybe that the extensive work that would have been needed for something like that, it's disappointing at the very least, but maybe they'll have something for like Universal, or there's been some indication of that, maybe. And there is no burglary minigame, another feature I would have really liked to have seen, especially if you have that many interiors, if that is accurate. Again, one of those things. Now, on the GTA forums, there was actually some more information that he posted, I guess, on his own Discord. Let's see, it mentions that, again, this is all coming from GameRoll as well, his supposed source. The random encounter from the leaks where the NPC talks about Jay Norris got cut ages ago, which kind of sucks because I like that scene. If you saw it, you saw it, but it was just a little fun joke, a little callback, if anything, to Jay Norris. But I do wonder how much they changed this game just because of those 2022 leaks. And I guess we'll find out maybe later this year, but I'm very curious. Not much to explore underwater right now other than treasure, but there are secrets and more shit can obviously get added before launch. I hope they do. I do really hope that they flesh that out. There is a mission where you shoot a shark with a spear gun. Yes, the part where Lucia gets tackled in the airplane is from the heist I told you about ages ago. And remember how I told you how Lucia sneaks into a bodybuilding gang? Well, the woman who tackled Lucia is muscly, as I'm sure you've seen, LOL, so I'm assuming she's part of the gang too. We have seen some screenshots of Lucia working out. Maybe this is like what that screenshot was, I guess, of a bodybuilding gang. Interesting. There are shopping malls with shops in them. There are skyscrapers with lifts in them. But right now, the lifts only take you to the roof and not the individual floors. And then they said there are around 700 shops in game, and definitely the most interiors in any open world game you've ever played. There is a mission where cops betray each other, but they don't know the context of it since they didn't play the mission leading up to it. I'll just leave that where it is. I don't really want to get into any story stuff. I've said this in the past. I don't think people want to hear these type of spoilers. I don't want it to get out. I'm fine talking about the open world stuff, but I will say behind the scenes, there's a lot of individuals that know a lot about this game, too much. That's why I'm saying Rockstar games, they are very secretive, but this game has been extremely leaky. But maybe that's what's to be expected when you have hundreds and if not thousands of people working on a game. Chapter 4 and 5 still are not finished, and they cut a huge chunk out of Chapter 5, so that's getting reworked right now. This is something I did hear. This I can confirm. This was last year, though, but I did hear this. The endings and stuff was being changed, and we'll leave it at that. And then they mentioned the Donnie character. The shot in the trailer where Jason walks out of the shop with the beer is gameplay, not a cutscene. You literally can go buy a six-pack from the shop. You briefly see Lucia's kid at the beginning from what my friend played of Chapter 1 through 3. They never saw the kid again, so maybe a case of my friend not having played enough of the story. The kid really just isn't in the game that much. We'll have to see. And then their adult scenes, they were pretty PG. Shit in the trailer was only from Chapter 1 through 3. The part where they jump off the bike and into the truck is from Chapter 3. Social media feature is still absolutely bare bones right now, but they should be working on that right now. I do wonder how they can even flesh something out and get people interested in something like that. Like, how is that going to really, like, enhance the gameplay experience? Not really sure. A lot of games really haven't really figured that out, and I'm sure Rockstar Games themselves sounds like they're struggling with it. They changed the weapon wheel for the third time the other day. Interesting. I'm guessing maybe they're talking about the look of it. I generally don't think it has to be how it handles. It's probably just got to be the appearance of it. When you switch characters, there's a third option where you can switch to Jason and Lucia, which we talked about that earlier. You cannot use AirPods to listen to music when you're not in a car, but that could be changed before launch. I really hope so. Ambrosia and Port Gellhorn, these are locations in GTA 6. Rockstar Games has already detailed and announced them. They are nothing compared to the size of Vice City. It's still big, obviously, but Vice City is the biggest by far. Prone is still cut and dual wielding was never in the game. You cannot buy pets, but Jason does have a pet iguana that you can feed. Right now, the ankle monitor doesn't affect gameplay, and Lucia gets rid of it pretty early on. The map is still rectangle like GTA 5, and mission waypoints are pink. Talked about that earlier. Jason's ability is like Deadeye. There is no Disney World parody. As far as they know, there's no secret map like Guarma, but they haven't played the whole story. So if you're hoping for some other locations like Cuba, there was an insider that mentioned that is a possibility. I'm curious. Maybe this is a secretive thing, but it sounds like, at least from his source right now, there is no indication that there's some other island or place we're going to go. Like, there has also been people theorizing, is there going to be a Liberty City maybe in some small capacity? Maybe a backstory, we don't know, but no indication at least here. They've not seen any returning GTA characters, but they're not too familiar with past characters anyway, so they're not certain. People do react if you have your gun out, and Jason and Lucia will try to hide their gun if they're walking with it out, so that attention to detail is still very much there. And they feel like everything might have been getting cut with the delay in mind, but they still could add shit back. So like I said, this is a game in development, things are changing, but this is probably the biggest look, biggest detail about GTA 6 since those 2022 leaks, and it is massive, and all of it indirectly confirmed by Rockstar Games. An accidental thing, but they're fighting a court case, and they had to really show that they're taking confidential information serious at the company, but inadvertently, they just confirmed much of this. Now, we don't know, like I said, with a lot of this information, things are subject to change, and as this individual, as their source seems to indicate, there's a lot of stuff iffy on the chopping board behind the scenes. Like, I talked about this, like, I think a year and a half ago, but like the basketball minigame, that was on the chopping block for a while. I'm not sure the status of that since, but Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be a massive experience. There's not real strong indication right now of what's going to happen. Rockstar Games has said that this game's coming out in November of 2026, and right now that is the assumption that we can all hold. Many people very much doubtful about that. Many have their skepticism, and we probably won't get a confirmation of that, or at least really know if Rockstar Games is serious about that release date until April or May when full marketing begins. But yes, this gives us a much bigger idea on what Rockstar Games is building with Grand Theft Auto 6. Fortunately, it doesn't really go too much into the story stuff, but it does confirm that the game, it's not as complete as people thought. Like, I've heard people say, like, oh, they've got to be working on just polishing stuff by now. It's quite clear this game isn't content complete. Like, they're still working on features, they're still putting the story stuff together. Red Dead Redemption 2 infamously didn't wrap up its motion capture until just a couple months before launch. I'm gonna take a wild guess and say Grand Theft Auto 6, probably the same thing here. Anyway, though, this is a massive leak. It's not even just this one, it's also this Reddit post that we talked about earlier on in the video. Just a lot of Grand Theft Auto 6 information has gotten out, and fortunately, though, we're not going to have to wait too much longer to finally see from Rockstar Games themselves the actual experience of GTA 6, because it should be launching in the next year. Hopefully. We'll see, though. But anyway, what do you make of all of this GTA 6 information? What is the biggest detail that is the most striking to you? I think the most disappointing to me is that there is no Disney World parody. I kind of really hoped to see what Rockstar could have put together with that, but there should be a bunch of other stuff. Florida has a lot of stuff going on. A lot. Anyway, what do you make of all this? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, but thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video, or if you found any informative value. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.